Welcome into the Ravens Rundown. We've got Eric DeCosta's Combine Press Conference coming up for you guys really shortly. We got all our guys at Chat Sports. They're all the way up in Indianapolis for the Combine, getting the best content you could find right here on YouTube. A little bit of a programming update before we get into the presser. Okay, we will not be live today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Had some things to attend to, have to help out with some Combine stuff. However, we will be live that exact same time on Thursday, so make sure to join us then. And if you want exclusive content like this, make sure you guys hit that sub button. Nobody's covering this team like we are right here on the Ravens Rundown.
Man, that's a deep question. I've been blessed to be a part of an organization where we've had 3 head coaches and 2 GMs. I think that continuity is huge in decision making, having support from ownership, putting processes in place, systems, feeling good about the process, knowing the other people in the room. I think that's a big part of it. I think shared experience, calling on historical things that have happened in the past to help you make decisions, I think factors in. The biggest thing is really just having an owner that believes in you and has put you in place to succeed and believes you will succeed. And I've been blessed to have Steve Bisciotti in my life for a long time. Well, I think you're always, every smart team's always looking for quarterbacks. It's a quarterback league. And whether you're looking for a backup, a practice squad quarterback, a starting quarterback, it's hard to win without one. We're blessed to have Lamar Jackson. Before that, we were blessed to have Joe Flacco. Living in a world without a quarterback is a tough world to live in. We understand that. These guys drive the league. And so, it's a tough position to be in. But I think if you've got the right people, you trust the process, you can find one. Well, I think a lot goes into that. First of all, good question. Appreciate the question. The allegations are serious, concerning. The amount of allegations are serious and concerning. I think we're fortunate that the league is doing an investigation. We'll wait as patiently as we can for as much information as we can, and we'll make our decisions based on that. Well, I think like every position, we're going to evaluate, rank the board. We've been doing that for the last 29 years. We're blessed to have a really good kickers coach in Randy Brown, who does a phenomenal job evaluating punters and kickers and long snappers for us every single season. We'll meet with Randy throughout the process over the coming weeks. He'll travel all over the country looking at these guys, and we'll build the best board that we can. Well, I think, again, it's a good question. I think the biggest thing that we have to do, first of all, is look at every single case differently. There are no absolutes. And I think in this case, we're still awaiting as much information as possible. Again, we're fortunate that the league has come down to Baltimore. I met with the league. I believe the league is meeting with other people in Baltimore as well. We'll wait for the details of that investigation, and we'll make a decision based on that. I really can't because, again, we look at every case differently, and the facts in every single case. We do this for a living. We study players. We look at background. We consider all these different things. Every case is entirely different facts, different situations. So we'll wait for the investigation to take place, and we'll make a decision based off of that. Right, so we were aware that a local media outlet was getting prepared to do a story on Justin Tucker, and that was the first time that we became aware of those allegations or the potential allegations that might result. Right, so I think, I've answered about 4 questions on this situation. I did meet with Justin. I'm going to keep those comments to myself. And personal conversations with Justin, I think, is probably the smart thing to do. But at that point, we did, meet, and that's what I'm going to say about that. Don't know. I have no idea. Well, I think it's a good, a pretty good class draft-wise, free agency-wise as well. I think we do a really good job. I'm very happy to see the development that our young receivers have made the last couple of years. Greg Lewis does a great job coaching those guys up. Our players really did a good job this year. Feel like there's a good opportunity for us to find some good talent, either through free agency or the draft, in every round, in every price point. And I think the other point is that we've got some really good tight ends as well. And I think this year we really did see kind of our vision for the offense come together with playmakers across the board, whether it's running back, receiver, tight end, backup running back, backup receivers, backup tight ends. And I think it was kind of what we've hoped for the last couple of years, and we had a chance to see that come to fruition. Well, Ronnie and I did a deal the last time, so that's great. He and I have a good friendship. We've known each other for a long time. He's got a great agent in Kim Miale. Never want to say 100%, but I feel good that we'll have a good, healthy debate, a good process. We're going to meet with Kim in Indy this week, and I'm optimistic that we'll be able to get a deal done. Well, that's a coaching question. I mean, we've seen, we think Roger had a great year last year. He's a very good athlete. He's way mature than a typical young player. I think he proved that this year with how he played and competed week in, week out, whether it was on-field performance against good players coming back from injuries and things like that. So he's definitely a factor on the left side if need be. I think we'll try to find the best 5 guys we can. I think there were a lot of questions about the offensive line last year, and I think we did a pretty good job of putting a pretty competitive offensive line together on the field last year, and I would expect the same to hold true this year. Yeah, I mean, I think, Cliff, it really just comes down to the best player at the time. And we're always going to say that. I mean, it's something that we've said every single year. You're starting back to 1996 with Ozzie as the GM. We're going to draft best available players. So I think if we're picking at, 27 and there's an edge rusher and he's the best guy, we're probably going to pick him. And it's going to hold through with every round. I think it's an important position. I think we were maybe second in the league in sacks last year, but having a continuous influx of young pass rush talent, guys that can set the edge and play the run, guys that play like Ravens, physical players who can get to the quarterback, I think that's a priority for us for sure. Derrick Henry? Derrick is just a phenomenal worker. He's a pro, does everything the right way. The way that he practices, the way that he takes care of his body, his mentality on the field, his leadership, his talent. I mean, he's freakishly talented. I mean, his combination of size and speed. So he was just the perfect player for us, I think, last year, the right addition. And he brought a lot to the table on the field and also off the field with intangible qualities. We're blessed to have him, and I would expect his successes last year to continue this year. It's a tough question. I mean, it's, running backs are kind of like the stock market. They've been up. When I was a kid, running back was arguably the most important position on the field. I grew up a Cowboys fan, and, Tony Dorsett, Emmitt Smith, guys like that were my idols. And then we went through this period of the last, 5-10 years, the analytics emphasis sort of de-emphasized the position. And I think last year, you saw the impact that some of these guys had, and Howie Roseman, a great GM, went out and got Saquon, and they won a Super Bowl. And a lot of credit to Howie. And but I think these are guys that touch the ball. These are guys that impact games. I think they're looked at as probably replaceable by some people. But if you've got a great one, if you've got a historic one, you can't replace those guys. They impact the game in many different ways, and they create nightmares for defenses. Well, I think that you always want to be strong, through your middle. And something that I think we've prioritized with Kyle as a safety, Roquan, our defensive tackles, Travis, Nnamdi, Linderbaum, Lamar, all those guys. I mean, I believe in that as well, being strong up the middle. It's always going to be an allocation of resources and where you spend your money every year. There's different schools of thought. But you've got to be physical. We've always prided ourselves on being a physical football team that can stop the run the ball, protect the quarterback, rush the passer, and win games in the fourth quarter. I think this draft class is pretty strong. I think you've got on the defensive line, you've got some guys, some defensive ends that when we say defensive end, we mean outside linebackers. So that's you might hear me reference outside linebackers. Other clubs might call them defensive ends. But I think you've got some defensive tackles that are fine prospects. And then on the interior, we see a number of guards that could get picked in the first and second round and probably provide early value and start right away for their drafting clubs. Well, I see Michelle over here. She helps decorate my office wall, and I think we have a picture of Derek going up on my wall. So what does that tell you? Lamar's got a great voice, and he's a student of the game. He watches players. He knows talent. Now, he does love the Miami guys and the Florida guys. But listen, Lamar he's a stakeholder. He's a partner. He's earned that right to have that type of input and opinion. And a lot of guys haven't earned that right, but Lamar has earned that right. It's important. It's necessary, and I welcome his input. And I'll get texts from him, and there have been some years where I've gone down and visited with him, and probably due to do that again, to take a trip down to Florida and spend some time with him. But he's got a great command of the offense. He made great strides this year in every facet. He's my MVP, and I think his impact on our team is impossible to measure. I don't know how to answer that. I mean, Lamar's Lamar. He's a two-time MVP, in my opinion. Should have been a three-time MVP. So, different status. So that's what I would say. I think you have to earn those kind of rights.
Eric, you mentioned Eric Hick. How do you value upside versus position?
Upside is how good can this guy be. Position need is like we need a player to play right away. In my opinion, with positional need, it sounds great at the time you draft a player, you pencil him in, but if he doesn't have the ability to play at a high level, then typically you're going to be disappointed. Your fans are going to be disappointed, and you're going to look at it as a bad pick. So you want the best player in any given situation. Your needs change day to day. I mean, we've been in situations. I've been on teams where I felt like we had great depth at corner, great depth at tight end. In a matter of a couple weeks, we had no depth. I go back to the year that in a matter of a couple weeks we lost J.K., Gus Edwards, and Justice, and had no running backs. Literally a Friday afternoon calling agents trying to find somebody to come to Baltimore. And fortunately, we were able to get a couple of guys that came in and really saved us that year in many different ways. And so, need changes, but you win with talent. You win with players. And I always, if I have my choice, I'm always going with upside, and I'm always going with talent. What was that? You guys know the Ravens. Right player, right price. We don't have a lot of cap room. We have Nick Matteo working tirelessly to find some space for us. We call it couch cushion coins. We're trying to find $50,000 here, $75,000 there, and a couch cushion. But, we're not a team that's going to make a lot of big splashes, generally speaking. I mean, we're probably going to have 11 draft picks this year. My goal would be to hit on a large percentage of those draft picks, to find good, young, inexpensive talent, to put guys in for the future. Because the reality of it is, when you're paying guys like Lamar Jackson and the Marlon Humphreys and the Nnamdi Matabikes and the Roquan Smiths and guys like that, and the guys like someday probably Tyler Linderbaum and guys like Kyle Hamilton, you've got to draft well every single year so that you always have an open window.
We can do two more, guys. Two more.
It gives us a little bit more, but when you're starting with as few dollars as we have, it's a savior, but we still would like to have more money, and then we're a victim of our own success in some ways because, and you guys remember when I did become GM, one of my main priorities was to retain as much of our own homegrown talent as possible. And we have a lot of homegrown talent, which is a good problem to have, but it also means that we don't have as much money to go out and go after players that aren't homegrown talent. So any additional money we can get is very helpful. It still doesn't mean that we're going to break the bank in free agency. We're still going to be going after those veteran minimum guys, which, George Kokinis and Mark Acevedo do a great job finding those type of players. We're still going to be trying to find the guys that we can get that we think are good value, that maybe come to us and play better than what we expected. And we have a lot of those guys, right? And those guys that come in and you're like, man, this guy's really good. I can't believe the Ravens got this guy for $1.5 million. Those guys are critical for us to sustain the success that we've had, because the reality is we just can't go out and spend $200 million in any offseason on players like some teams do. We're just not going to be able to do that.
Eric, last one. Mark Andrews, obviously, in the final year of his deal. How do you weigh that reality versus, obviously, two other tight ends who are coming up on the extension eligible, and even considering weighing the trade-off versus, all of that?
Yeah, I think Mark is a great player. We're blessed to have three really good tight ends under contract this year. They all contribute in different ways. Their chemistry, their camaraderie, their impact on the offense, their relationship with the other skill guys is great. Mark's going to go down as one of our great players. He'll be in the Ring of Honor someday. I love having Mark on the team. He's an awesome player. I know he's going to have an amazing season. We'll figure out all the roster machinations over the coming weeks, but I can tell you there's no bigger fan of Mark Andrews than me. And he's been a blessing to have on the team, his leadership, the way he approaches the game, his attention to detail. He's just one of those guys.
All right, thanks, Eric.
Thank you, guys.